there, everyone. This is Chris Donald, and I also have Mark Iverson. Ooh, and I'm already going ahead. Well, whatever.
Hello.
We'll go to that one anyway. And I think we still have a couple people joining us. So we'll go through the of if you're joining us for the first time, you will have a GoToWebinar panel on the right-hand side. You can ask questions. And today is our guest timer, which Mark Iverson from Skinny Raven. And the difference in between Mark and everybody else, I would say, is location. And I'm going to let him tell you more about it, but I've got a little blurb about him in the Skinny Raven. Oh, goodness gracious, clicking all over the place. So Mark's been producing and timing Anchorage's largest events since 2011. He's full service event timing and production, uses CT for timing, and also uses RunSignup for registration and results. And he does everything from top to bottom with registration, marketing, race day, etc. So he's going to tell us a bit more about his business and how he's addressed the needs for the events in his region, but also, and just because I was clicking through and learning more about Skinny Raven, and we all have pictures like this. It's fairly normal, you've got your arch in the background, people running. And so, I just thought that's a nice picture. And then I got to the next picture. I'm like, yep, I don't have pictures like that. So it's just a different ball game up there. So I just wanted to share a couple of these just because compared to what I mean, I'm based out of Charleston, South Carolina. We don't have hills, and this is just epic. That's all I can say is, pictures like this are just epic. So, Mark, thanks so much for joining us, and I'll pass it over to you and tell us a little bit about you, how you got into the industry. Tell us some about Skinny Raven and what you guys do, and what your day-to-day is like.
I got into events and timing sort of. But just by saying yes. I was working at Skinny Raven, which is a specialty running retail here. And first of all, we're in Anchorage, Alaska. So it's the biggest town or city in Anchorage. We're about 375,000 people in the municipality. But I moved back. I'd raced up here. I was a cross country ski racer, and I'd raced up here in college, and I'd moved back to train with a post grad team, and I was working specialty running to support my ski career. And round about still while I was racing Skinny Raven, we had one race called the Twilight 12K, and it was getting big enough to where things were going pretty well, and I was asked to step in as a race director pretty last minute. It was a little bit loose, but it was basically the permit side, an organization, and race day operations was what I was asked to do with like a month to go, and I'd never done anything like that. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And that year was really, I mean, I had a lot of help from the folks who'd at the store who'd concepted the race and put it on before. But the next year we were thinking of adding a few more races, and it was making sense to maybe time them ourselves. And we started working with Bazoo Chronotrack in 2011 to get the technology to time it ourselves. And I was like, okay, let's figure this out. And they came up, and Bazoo is, for those of you who might be newer, is what is now Chronotrack Live back in 2010, 2011. And I just kept saying yes, like, sure, we'll do that. And then we concepted a few new races. And in about that time, the outfit that had been directing some of the larger races in town and had a chip timing system were sort of ready to move on. And so we didn't initially set out to be a timer other than for our own events. But as we entered the industry, they were like, okay, this is pretty great. And they had a few multi-year contract events that lived on, and we started picking up other stuff. Like, we went from, I think we timed our race and 3 or 4 others that first year to 15 to 20 to 30. And now we're at like 50 to 60 a year. So just kind of by saying yes and figuring out how to do it. So we never actually timed. I never timed a race before we started with ChronoTrack and Bazoo. So
Nice.
but I've been
Nice.
racing my whole life, so I've kind of seen it happen.
Right.
You know
Trial by
about it.
fire. Sounds like.
Yeah. And so then, we produce, depending on the year, between eight and nine of our own events a year, and the rest we are contract timers. And I say timers, but we really try to hold a lot of hands and help new race directors. As a lot of timers know, the nonprofit or PTAs, the faces are changing every year, and so we're sort of one of the consistent institutional knowledge bases for all these other events we've been at for year over year over year. So
Cool.
yeah, so that's a little bit about what we do, and we time our season's about to wind down. I know cross country still going pretty strong in a lot of places in the year and road races, but we've had our first snow, and it's 40 degrees and highs in 40s and lows in 30s, and we're about to just hit our winter season. So and the sun's not quite up. Yeah.
It's just so different.
We had a cold summer, so 45 isn't actually that cold this summer. We've had highs in the 60s, low 60s all summer. So.
And so what's your largest event that you guys have up there?
Currently the one, we've had a run for women that we don't produce, and that's been historically the largest event that we're involved with, and we help them manage their bib pickup and time it. Our largest event is now our turkey trot, which is last year was over 2,300 people here in Anchorage, and it's trending way up this year, which is really nice. So we help support the food bank through it and have it all roads. We shut down downtown Anchorage, which is pretty fun. So
awesome. And so I know you're using quite a few of the race day tools out there. You mentioned helping folks with check-in. So in terms of I guess, product placement, the technology suite behind me, what pieces of the puzzle are you guys implementing, and how is that, we've been adding on the race day team, we've been adding these pieces as we've gone on, and they've kind of continued to adapt and evolve into what timers have asked for. So in the past, I think you said you've been going since 2011. How is, the race day suite kind of, what are you using? How has it changed the landscape of what you're able to do and manage and grow?
Yeah, so like I said, we started out as ChronoTrack Live timers, and right away with dynamic bib assignment, we were doing, we have 2 stores here in Anchorage, so we're doing bib pickup at both places. And so can't do that without dynamic assignment. So from the get-go, that's how we started. Around about probably 2017, 18, we started looking at RunSignup for registration, just for some of the things we wanted to do that weren't yet supported in ChronoTrack Live. And so that's about the time we started making the jump, and that was things like multi-event registration, some more discounted cross event discounts, coupons, that sort of thing. And so that's when we started making the switch. We kind of had a lot of contracts still with ChronoTrack, and as of now, everything we do, I think we have one race in 2022 left on CT Live. But everything's back over to RunSignup. Just, you're familiar with the tools, and development's been very fast, especially since we jumped in 2018, and fortuitous through the pandemic that we did, because you guys were so key to helping us pivot to virtual events and challenge events to get through the shutdowns of 2020. So when we were first in registering with RunSignup, we were using the check-in app or the online check-in, dynamic check-in right away. As the check-in app developed, we jumped into that. Loving it right now. It was really good, and then it got a little complicated to set up, and then now it's super simple, but real efficient. and we're using RunSignup for timing in that period before race day was developed. And as race day came out, we started migrating over to the timing software for all our RunSignup registration events, just because the integration is so easy. You know, if you forgot to do a download before your race started, RunSignup, you throw a bunch of unknowns in your database. You got to go, fix them or delete it out and re-download and restart. So the integration's been really great that way, and it's also allowed us to start with doing our with dynamic bib pickup, doing bib check / like lookup stations at big expos for the larger events in town. So as people are leaving, they can see their name pop up on a screen or come check in with us if it doesn't.
Well, it sounds like since you have multiple spots with the stores that you guys are doing packet pickup, what does your team look like? Like how many timers do you have? And
I've got my business partner Dan, who owns the retail store. It was him and I and one other timer for a long time, and he's sort of stepped away from that time role. He can still jump in and manage equipment, but he's not familiar with the software we're using anymore.
Right.
But so I've got two other lead timers. One sort of my full-time guy that he's in the office, and we're doing all the event planning and email management and registration setup and stuff for all, so he's one of my timers, but he's also doing all kinds of he's actually a little better with RunSignup than I am in terms of the minutia at this point. And then I have another Jen who is only 2 years in, and neither of these folks had any background in timing. We just kind of trained them up and hiring, looking for awesome personalities first, and then training them to be timers. And that's going well too. So and she's part-time and helps us out. And she was a hire since the pandemic, and the idea there was, as we needed another timer just to take some pressure off during the summer. Both Matt and I have kids now, and Matt's a 1 year into parenthood as well. And so my goal was to sort of give everybody a weekend off a month in the busy season if I could. So
cool.
And then for our other event help, I've got a crew of awesome sort of high school age kids, and then we pull from our our store staff into our events to help manage events. So
nice. Well, and what type of events? Obviously, you've mentioned a number of running events, but
yep.
I would guess with all the snow on that picture in the background, you guys are also doing some Nordic events too, and things like that.
We have timed some skiing. We actually don't time very much. I think, but we do in the summertime. We are involved with a number of triathlons, and we've done a lot of mountain bike timing as well. Mountain running also, which poses some different logistical challenges, but all the technology's the same. In terms of skiing, we have a really, really awesome local ski club, and they've always had their own timing. They have a championship system. They just invested in a new chip system, and so it's a little bit nice to have an off season because we're so busy. And timing skiing up here, high school skiing is really big, and between high school and club skiing, I think it would add like 17 or 18 events through the winter. Plus they're long days and can be very cold. So, we got 700 kids in a high school race up here doing interval start, and then switching to 2 at a time to 4 at a time to a mass start for the D or E teamers. And so we haven't really pursued the ski timing too much.
So with you being where you are, I mean, you obviously are facing different challenges that somebody in the lower 48 might not even think about. I know every once in a blue moon, somebody will talk me into going north and helping out with an event in what I consider cold weather. You would just laugh at. But I know battery lives and decoders and starting generators when it's cold on the production side. How do you what are your challenges that we don't have, and how do you circumvent or overcome those?
Yeah, with our CT timing gear, we haven't had the batteries seem to do just fine. Decoders seem to do just fine. I mean, the coldest we'll get ever is 20 below, but no, we timed a fat bike race a couple winters ago where it was 15. It was like 20 below, 17 below in parts on the course. It was really cold. Not I would say super safe to be out. A lot of face frostbite that day. The timing gear seems to do great. Where we struggle with the most doing dynamic check-in is there have been events where we've pulled the plug on that and gone to paper because both device battery, like devices just don't stay on. It's not even battery life issue. They're just too cold to operate at like, single digit temps. So pivoting there, we keep generators inside until the morning of because they're really hard to start when it's, 20 degrees or colder. You'd be pulling on them a long time. We have a van finally that we time out of, and we keep the heat on in the van in those situations. Got to give yourself more time because just simply managing cables when it's that cold adds like 20% to your setup into your
Yeah, I
teardown.
bet.
Yeah, so but fortunately, we're not always that cold. So we have a lot of winter temps in the 30s and even 40s that just depending on what the weather's doing. So we can be 52 and raining in January, being a maritime climate up here. So I prefer the snow. It's a lot better than the rain when it's dark out. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then days are short. So I find it funny up here because the races, the normal race start in Alaska is 10 o'clock, which is pretty unique. I feel like
Yeah.
I've helped out at some other races, and you're setting up at a park at 4 a.m, and you're done by lunch, or maybe even breakfast in a short event. And so if we get a relaxed mornings, you're at work at like 8, which isn't bad.
Right.
But in the wintertime, very short days. And so you're setting up and you're not warm. If it's cold, you're not warming up because the sun's not coming up. And when the sun is up, there's not really any warming effect. So yeah.
Well, and then you have the wildlife side of things as well.
Yeah, definitely lead bikes in the front of every racers. We do radios on ours, try to, radio comms with our course markers so that we can get an idea if there's moose or bears in the area. Our regional championship, the women's varsity race or the girls varsity race was just impacted with a race. It was not an official race stoppage, but some athletes had to stop. Some ran through the woods. It greatly changed who was in the running for the top 10. Had some effect on who may or may not go to state. So we had to go, do our. I wasn't. I think I was on the jury, but our the lead had to get in touch with our state association and figure out how they can manage this. And we have had race stoppages for just either reroutes and you run a 3K ish instead of a 5K, or a race stoppage if it's in the first K for events for moose. And otherwise, like during events, it's like not, Mayor's Marathon, which is a race we timed, they had a rather stubborn sow black bear right in the middle of, I mean, it's woodsy, but it's in the middle of town, and they actually had to reroute the course because she would not move. And so it added, fortunately for all the Boston qualifiers, it added, they went out and measured the reroute and it added distance instead of made it short end. So they were able to manage that in terms of Boston qualifiers. But yeah, unique,
That is
unique
wild.
experiences.
Like,
Yep.
why? It's just crazy. So how, I mean, it's just things I didn't even think about in terms of, so you're saying if it's within the first kilometer, then you pause, but if it's after that, then you redirect potentially or turn around?
There have been instances where, and this is mostly cross country that occur in one or two of our parks in town. They have just sort of, taken a cut through the woods to the trail if it's close and rerouted. A few years ago, it was actually during COVID, I think they stopped a race because the moose, a bull moose was not moving, and so they stopped the race, but it was pretty early. I think it was like inside the first kilometer and restarted once they got the moose moved off the trail. But they were running what they call moose goosers all day, and that's people out ahead. Someone goes and rides the course 15 minutes before the race, or even drives it in a car, and then they have a 5-minute lead and then the race lead, and so that's because they're constantly moving around. And in the fall they tend to gather in the parks.
Gotcha.
A little more so than in the summertime. They're starting to move down into town. So yeah, moose.
Yeah. Speaking of cross country, so have you shifted over to the race day scoring side of cross country, or what are you scoring cross country with presently, and how are you?
We have not yet moved from RunSignup to cross country for a couple reasons. We've used the team integration with race day and some other events, but just familiarity with our process probably being the first one right now. But we also have some live features at a particular venue that of an integration that it works with a massive scoreboard through RunSignup.
Gotcha.
That I was able to finagle using some support from Ernie Page at Summit Timing, and because it's the ski venue, and so they've had this scoreboard for 20 years. Unfortunately, it is no longer working. It's an old Daktronics, and nobody can seem to fix it. So we're not doing that. But yeah, so RunSignup, just in terms of some of the report generating and the way you can finagle and manually get some of the outputs you need. We haven't moved over yet, but everything else we're doing in race day. I have a few events that I haven't, and that's for other more complicated scoring reasons, like conditional team scoring, that we haven't. I haven't even reached out to you guys to see if race day can handle it yet, but that event has pulled that category now. So it was a youth team event where you need a certain amount of people from certain categories in order to count. And then we have our biggest triathlon has this mother-daughter event that's a mom can be on as many teams as daughters racing, which is not really a thing that's done in this, the running world. And so I've a semi-automated, but in the end, very manual process to do that through, or that I developed with some help from some other unscore timers. And so few events out there that we don't, but most things, just because of the integration with registration, we've moved over to race day.
Sure. Are there any other tools that you use in your normal day-to-day with Skinny Raven for business, like that you would say are a big asset? Not even on the race day scoring side or race day side, but like are you using CRM or any other kind of project management to keep things in line?
Yeah, so we use Trello for our day-to-day timing management, and I would say it's okay. I don't, it seems to be that everything works okay for what we do. I use it to a certain extent for our event planning, but it's a little cumbersome to keep updated all the time or from year to year. So it works. Lots of stuff is in Dropbox and in their brains, which isn't always the best place for it.
Right.
So yeah, those are a couple tools we use. Everything we do as a business is synced in Dropbox, so we can all access all the race folders and everything that we need to. CRM we use. They change it all the time. Our marketing team at the store. What's it called right now? I'm totally pulling a blank. Blue Shift email service, because we're working with a third party to help us integrate some of our point of sale with emails and things like that. But I used to do the e-blast for the store and build them and send them, but I'm not involved in that anymore. And then that's kind of about it. From software suites, I mean, we just use QuickBooks Online for our accounting and invoicing, and that's what we use at the store for that stuff as well. race day tools, the other stuff we're using, we use RaceJoy at all of our events sort of casually. We don't put a ton of effort into customizing it out. I have done that for some of the larger events in towns in terms of banner ads or custom alerts, things like that. I've done some fun ones for our turkey trot, some alerts on course, which is fun to say, like, they're getting closer to pie, because or closer to dinner, the closer they are to the finish. And we've used RaceJoy for all our virtual stuff. So we're still maintaining a hybrid event at all of ours, and the virtual is sort of getting smaller as the in-persons are growing back to about even or bigger than pre-pandemic levels. But we still use RaceJoy for as an option for people to use for their virtual events. Loving the new email, especially for the automated emails. We used to run in a fair amount of formatting issues with the older emails. Like Apple devices would automatically turn dates and times a certain font color, and if it happened to match your background color for the race, then no one could see the content. But the new V2 coming into the automated, as well as just building better looking emails for marketing has been a good asset for us. So and then we're using cover pages for a lot of our for our events. We host all of our race information on our own website.
Right.
And so the cover pages have been nice to simplify what people see on RunSignup. So I'm not having to maintain like a description in places. So it can just be focus on a banner and the registration tiles and some sponsors. For other events, one of our larger events in town, Mayor's Marathon, is top to bottom in RunSignup for their whole website. And including their own URL and all that business. So yep. And so we make use of almost all the tools that are available at some time. I would say some are, there's a lot of buttons under the hood. It's a little intimidating for new people in RunSignup. It's been
for sure.
Creating almost anything that any race would need. Yeah, we use most of the tools at some point.
Have you played around with the photo side of things? Do you guys?
Yeah, we've been using the photos for everything we do. Yeah, that was one of the things we liked most about Bazoo when we started, was this it was pretty new and innovative back then to have just these automatically matched photos. And I would say the only I'd love it if the videos didn't pop out to YouTube with external ads, but we try to do video at all of our finishes and most of the split points that we do.
Gotcha. Yeah. For those of you listening that aren't doing the video, it's a really great feature, super easy to add in. You do make sure you have to push up clock time, because that's the only way it'll sync. We have a lot of folks that they'll listen to what you just said and they're like, oh, well, I'm going to do it. And they'll upload the video, and then all of a sudden they're like, I can't get it to line up. And it's because they never pushed up the clock time. You can hide the clock time. You don't have to display it, but the clock time is what syncs everybody's finish location on the video.
Yeah, one of the challenges we've had with the way it syncs is, especially during the pandemic when we're doing a lot of open starts, and then our triathlons are all pool swims up here, so they're essentially interval starts, and so we have to send up clock time as time of day to get it to work, because everybody's clock time is different. Or if we want split video, then we send up the split, but we also have to set up the split time of day as well, just because that's a constant for everybody if you want that video to sync. So you sort of see these two fields, and that's what we discovered as we went to open starts.
So, and then Shelly just mentioned to me that you might be using tickets as well for some events.
We do one ticketed event for Skinny Raven. I think that's the only one we've used for it. And we do have a fashion show. We just actually launched registration for it again. And so tickets we were using just our race registration platforms in the past, be it RunSignup or ChronoTrack. And or CT Live. And so now with tickets, we use that, and it's nice because it's built for that. You don't have to, answer all these extraneous questions. People can just buy 2 or 3 tickets, and that doesn't matter who's coming in with them.
Right.
They just, John has 3 tickets, and here are his 2 guests and himself coming in. So that's been really good. And we use clubs as well. Kind of forgot about
Okay.
clubs, but yeah, we have a training group ourselves. The Anchorage Running Club, which is our local nonprofit running club, uses clubs, the club feature. So we're actually really looking forward to what you guys are going to do coming up with the clubs and some of the new
Yep.
features. We jumped in, and at the time we were like, oh, there's like the scheduling and like training log, and this is going to be awesome. And then it wouldn't work for people, and we were this is back in like 2019 or 2018, and it's like, well, the training log works for people with old RunSignup accounts, but not new RunSignup accounts. And so yeah, and I know clubs was going to get a big boost about 2020, and then the world had other plans. So looking forward to the
Right.
club features.
Yeah. So did you feel like for a lot of timers have just started to dip their toe into the ticket side of things, especially with selling for some general admission things like cross country events or other sporting events that might be outside of their normal, book of business. Would you feel like it's something that, the setup and management of that was fairly similar to setting up a run sign up event and using the check-in app?
Yeah, I mean, check-in app is no brainer. The check-in process is super easy. The setup, again, most things are the same. There's obviously like how you set age limits, or ours is a 21 and over show. So there's just some nuance in terms of once you get into the having to get more specific to your event. But overall, yeah, it's pretty easy. In the website, again, you can just throw a website together with a few nice images, and you're good to go. So yeah, we're going to start to explore it a little bit more. It's definitely, it's not like outside our comfort area, but it's a different thought, which is like you're basically servicing the before instead of during. So you're before, and then we're all awesome at packet pickups, like in managing the flow and the technology for packet pickups. So for check-in at conferences or music events, or
Right.
that those sort of activities, it's we're all pretty well equipped to handle that and have the technology if you've been doing digital check-ins or dynamic assignments to take care of that.
Right. Well, and a lot of folks in our line also have the infrastructure as well, whether it be crowd control barricades or,
Yeah,
pop-up tents or cones or whatever to help manage that side. So again, you you kind of diversify from race management to event
yeah,
management, like you said, and so it's very, very similar once you start getting into that and you start to realize there's a lot more events out there than there are races. So
oh yeah,
if
yeah, there's
if you do want that business, it's out there for sure.
yep. So that's one thing we're probably going to start to pursue. We're in an interesting market up here where we can't really easily go other places. Fairbanks is 6 hours away. And other than that, it's pretty small towns outside of Anchorage. And so there are a lot of running events, but there's only 650,000 people in the state, and it's not getting more populated right now.
Right.
And so you can bring as many people, new people to events as you can, but so I've been thinking about, we're 12 years into our business here, and you're starting to think about like, well, where are the real growth opportunities? Things have come back since the pandemic, and that was a challenge to get through in itself that took a lot of resource. But now it's like, where do you go from here? And it's like, when there's only so many people that will come to a race, like, um, you know, uh, they're looking, there's people doing other stuff, and
Right.
they need help as well. So.
Right, and I think I'm not sure who said this, but the market cap of races versus events in terms of, like race registration versus ticket registration is like an order of magnitude of like 30 times multiplier or 40 times multiplier or
Yeah.
something like that. It's just so significant. So it really does open doors, especially in, like you said, for those of us in the lower 48, we just, drive to the next state or the next town, and you don't have that option. So getting creative with what you currently have is good stuff. Especially because I'm sure there's a lot of, you know, other events going on, whether they be concerts. I know during the pandemic, a number of folks got involved with uh, helping crowd dispersion with like crowd control barricades and
Mhm.
touchless check-in for people, things like that. And they're still being used at like political rallies and whatnot because they still need those, like, I don't know, I call them like cattle, corralling people
Yeah,
into the herding.
herding the
Yeah,
animals around. Yeah. Well, and for us, the pandemic forced some changes that we've maintained, in terms of the amount of space we've given people at post-event activities and beer gardens. And it's like, oh, we had to make it way bigger to get approved by the Muni to host our beer garden in 2021, I think. And the feedback was tremendous. Like everyone loved the space. They didn't, we were kind of
interesting.
crammed all in the same, like it was like a party atmosphere, but they wanted to grab their beer and go sit on the grass and be able to lay back, and with no pressure to like be bumping elbows with folks. So, um,
Interesting.
yeah, that event flows have changed a little bit just based on that. So, um,
So do you find that you have, I know we talked about population density of where you are. Are there other, obviously there's someone in the ski timing
mhm.
market with the club. Do you have other competition in terms of other event timers in the area?
Yeah, it's been we have two other chip timers besides the Nordic Ski Club in the area. One's out of the Matsu, which is about 40 minutes north, up in the Wasilla Palmer area. Um, he's kind of more of a husband-wife duo, and they do a
Mhm.
great job. We haven't had to like butt heads on too many things. Just capacity, has been we've both been happy. I think where we're at currently.
Right.
And then there's another dude whose focus is more on some of the smaller bike club timing, and he
Mhm.
built his own chip system. Well, didn't build it, but kind of a lesser known system. He's a great dude too. My kid does a bunch of the events that he times, some of these youth splash and dashes and triathlons and duathlons and stuff.
Very cool.
So good, decent relationship with the other two timers, and the ski club does their thing in the winter. And yeah, so there's a little bit of pressure, but it hasn't been, we haven't had to like chase each other's business. We've both been busy enough, I think.
Sure. That's really great that you guys, again, since you're kind of in a fishbowl of sorts, like you've learned how to
Yeah.
kind of coexist with, everyone has their own
Well,
microcosm that you kind of work within. So that's great. It's not always the same down here.
no,
Um,
definitely. It's people can come from, a couple towns over the state away and be there in a day's drive.
yep.
Um, it's challenged our growth a little bit, um, but it's also protected our business, so
Right.
to a certain extent. So,
Right. Well, I want to remind the folks that are on that at any point, if you have questions specifically for Mark, um, whether it be about timing or about what to do if you see a bear on your course, um, feel free to ask those types of questions. And in the interim, I'll say, we're kind of getting towards the point of wrapping up. And do you have anything that else that you'd like to share, whether it be about, your experience timing, or that, you think is cool or interesting, or anything else about the RunSignup tools that, you guys have put into play and have enjoyed using?
um, I think the speed of development from RunSignup has been awesome. So, you guys have been pushing out new tool after new tool, and most of it works pretty seamlessly. You're going to run into some bugs here or there, but it's you had a lot of tools to begin with, and so refining some of that. I love some of the UX updates on the back end around sign up. That's helping organize like questions and things better. But I appreciate just the work and the responsiveness, like especially in race day. It's like we had a little issue this last weekend, and it's we were able to be emailing with you guys the same day, trying to come up with a solution or figure out what was going on. It didn't really. It was more like it was an unknown runner issue, report issue.
Right.
But it's like we were during the day getting responses, so that was really awesome.
We try to tell people all the time, if you actually send in those support tickets through the normal channel,
Yeah.
like you do, magically, not only do you get a response, but if something's not doing, interacting with you the way it's supposed to, the developers get involved and, fix it. So a lot of folks are hesitant to click that button.
Yeah. I guess I'd mention one thing, and I think Matt Avery made this comment, because Matt and I send stuff in. I actually have a list that I've been compiling that I need to send you guys. It's, I know not all of it's going to get touched, but it's like, hey, this is all weird, or not weird, but this is like what we'd like to see.
Right.
But apparently we're a pretty squeaky wheel up here. So, I guess I would say if something's not working right, just let these guys know, and and they're usually pretty responsive, or they'll tell you it's either coming or it's not in the, it's like, oh, well, that's not going to happen. And you're like, okay,
right. Well, and here's how to work around it.
Yeah. I've always, between Natalie on the RunSignup side, you how many events are on RunSignup in the country? You've usually dealt with and seen it all, pretty much at some point. So if we can't figure it out, and like I said, we've been doing this for 13 years across multiple registration platforms, and it'd be like, I don't know how to do this. And either we've come up with a similar thing that Natalie gets back to us about, or she's done it before, and
right.
Or someone at RunSignup has, she's reached out and been like, this is how we had to do this one other time. And other than that, I don't know. Just for me, I like being out in the field. Like the desk part of this is the challenge for me, and I love getting out and setting up equipment and being out there on race day, or helping people. We do, like I said, as you alluded to in the beginning, we do a lot more than timing for people. If they need a tent, trash cans, whatever else, something's a third hour. Okay, can you bring a ladder? We need to hang this thing up. It's like, oh, chuck it in the van. And so it's just, helping you keep clients happy, and making yourself indispensable in a way, whether it's an extra generator, or solving their logistical problem that doesn't necessarily fall under the umbrella of timing. So.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's, not only have you built like an amazing event timing company up there, but you've done it in the face of a lot more adversity than we have to deal with down here. So I commend you for that. And, it's just so interesting to hear how it, again, like when we go to California or Maine or Florida or whatever, like it's similar, but your day-to-day is not similar. So thank you for.
We have a couple of really fun ones. My favorite is one, I had a foot injury and I couldn't do it this year, but my favorite is Timing Bird Ridge. And I hike, we hike too many tracks up 3,400 feet up a mountain. It's about 3 miles and 3,400 feet. And we do live results from the summit. And on a nice day, it's amazing. I've had some brutal days up there. Those kind of challenges are the ones I like, trying to figure out how to get a really tough job done.
This picture is just probably and I'm just make-believing here, but I feel like every time in the summer, this is what it looks like when you guys go out there and
not this summer.
Time runs and whatnot. Oh, right. You
We
said it was
had
really cold this summer.
we do have brilliant I mean, it's always beautiful up here. But yeah, this summer we had 4 or 5 days over 70 degrees and a lot of gray and a lot of rain. So but in 2019 it was 85 every day and sunny. And for
Wow.
us that's miserably hot. So
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, again, Mark, we really appreciate you guys,
yeah,
joining us and everything that you do. And, if keep being that squeaky wheel, we honestly, we do appreciate it. We love getting the feedback from folks. And again, that's how we evolve. That's how we build something better. So, and to all of you that joined in, thank you so much for being on. Didn't have a lot of questions, but I'm sure I'm going to now start getting questions via email or some other method about how you're doing things up there, especially with cold, because we get a lot of comments about touch screens and computers and things like that once it gets to winter time. So be on the
yep,
lookout for emails from me about how you guys manage some of that stuff. But
okay.
otherwise, again, thank you so much for being on. We appreciate it, and look forward to chatting with you again soon.
All right, Chris. Good to
All right.
see you again,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
keep having fun.
Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Brian, I think you're out of the shot a little bit. You got to move to your right. No, you're right. Brian, you're right. Okay. Thank you all for watching. This is the end of the video. If you'd like to see more videos from us, please subscribe, click the notification bell, and then all. That'll keep you up to date when we post new videos. If you'd like to click the thumbs up button and let us know you enjoyed this kind of content, we'd appreciate that. We'll see you in the next one. Brian, you're not even close to where I was saying.